phone. That's why you put. Where's the phone at? I put it here. I want my keys for your dad. No. Don't forget them. You won't forget. Put them where? Easy.
Okay. All right. The February 14th special meeting of Upper Darby Township Council is now called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I will now ask Councilor Wagner to do the moment of silence.
I actually have three, so may I do them separately? Thank you. I first would ask for a moment of silence for Brian Taylor. Thank you. I would also ask for a moment of silence for the family in East Lansdowne that lost their lives in the fire last week. And I would also ask for a moment of silence for the men and women missing in action and prisoners of war. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wagner. Secretary Billups, can you please take the attendance?
Councilor Wagner,
Here.
Councilor Brandis, I think you're on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Councilor Andrusko,
Here.
Councilor Blackwell, I think you're also on Zoom. He'll come back to you. Councilor Heyman.
You don't have
Here.
to come back to me. I'm here. You don't have to come back to me. I'm here.
Okay, we
here.
couldn't hear you, Councilor Blackwell.
You can hear me now, Counselor.
Councilor Heyman.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councilor Banto.
Yes.
President Tunis.
Here.
Secretary Billups is here. Councilor Minnick.
Here.
Councilor Silva.
Present.
Councilor Wentz.
Here.
Okay, thank you. And of course, we have our Honorable Mayor Ed Brown. We have Solicitors Kilkenny and Gallagher. And from the administration, we have Ms. Dobbins and Ms. Scuddy. We have Officer Bateman and Radar. Hi, Radar. We have Officer O'Gara. Hi. Officer Friel. Okay. Sergeant Lou. I'm going to say your name wrong. Gray. And of course, all the residents of Upper Darby. Thank you all for being here tonight. And Kara, I didn't forget you. Hi.
Thank you, Secretary Billups. Next up is public forum. This is the time set aside for the public to speak. When you hear your name, please come up to the microphone and state your name for the record. As noted on the agenda, Upper Darby residents have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Residents are prohibited from making threats, using profanity, or acting in a manner that would impede or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. Any person who attends the meeting and makes remarks, disrupts, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting after receiving a verbal warning may be required to leave the meeting at the discretion of the council president. Public forum should not exceed 30 minutes. As you're aware, residents have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. If a resident chooses to ask questions, they are voluntarily giving up their time for a response. This means that the 3-minute timer will continue to run no matter who is speaking. The timer will be clearly displayed on the screen. Secretary Phillips?
Yes. First, we have Joanne Namavang.
Joanne Amavang. I don't want to be here tonight saying the things I have to say, but I think it's necessary. My remarks are in response to the mayor's comments of last week. I find it unfortunate that you chose to use the time for the mayor's message to reprove those of us who come to meetings and speak at these meetings. You said we have a, quote, us versus them philosophy and a gotcha mentality. You suggested that we do not care about the township and that our goal is to, quote, make us all look bad. You also said, quote, you can reach out to us. But here's the problem. Since this new administration and council, I have reached out twice to President Tunis and once to acting CAO Dobbins. I got a timely response from Mr. Tunis the first time. The second time I was ignored. I got a response from Ms. Dobbins about 8 to 10 days after my email, which response was then too late to be of any use. Mr. DeMazzi, a resident, has on more than one occasion publicly offered to sit down with any of you to offer his expertise on financial matters. No one felt it was useful to take him up on his offers. Further, I know that a few people have tried to reach out to your office before the January 31st meeting to explain to you the problem with the tax ordinance. They received no response. If mistakes are not taken care of privately beforehand, then the only other option is in the public meeting. If you think the handout that I gave last week with the math laid out was meant to embarrass anyone, then you have missed the point. At 6 p.m. last week, I was modifying it because Becky wasn't able to follow it. And I can guarantee that she is not embarrassed that I am publicly sharing that she had trouble with the math. The thing is, she admits that she didn't understand it, so she deferred to me. This council and this administration have made it abundantly clear that you do not want to work with any of us. The us versus them philosophy actually starts with you and this council. You dismiss most of what we have to say, and then have the boldness to call us rude, nasty, and negative. You then tell us what we cannot say. If Becky wants to lobby for the police or any other department, you have no right to limit her speech or to belittle her for doing that. You, Mr. Brown, are not the free speech police. You're not the Facebook police. I am fully within my rights to encourage people to attend these meetings, either in person or virtually, and to let them know what's going on. Also, I find it very interesting that shortly after your speech last week, Mr. Heyman spent a couple of minutes lambasting Ms. Wentz for something that happened over 2 years ago. You all need to work on exhibiting respect for each other first, then for members of the public. Then perhaps you will receive the respect you desire. As I alluded when I started, I do not think this is the proper forum for upbraiding each other. So if you have any kind of response, I would appreciate it if you did it privately. You have my information. And let's keep these meetings for working on the public interest of the people of this township. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Becky Duggan.
Becky Duggan, I want to start off by last week it was, because that's the meetings every week. I asked about the firefighters. There's 6 firefighters in the new firefighters or additional in the budget for this coming year. So I understand there's only 3 in the academy. Can there be a plan perhaps to reallocate that money that was for the firefighters to additional police officers? I don't know what the cost differential between a firefighter and a police officer is, but perhaps that's something that could be done. I understand you don't like my ideas, me asking for things to be done, but that's what I would like to see happen. I'd also like to bring up the fact that at the intersection of Cedar Avenue and Tobacco Road, there has been a metal plate on Tobacco Road right at Cedar for more than 5 years. And there is a sewer grate right next to it. So all the pavement is deteriorated under that. So I think it's a hazard for people driving. It's a hazard when people walk there. The kids are going to the park, walking there. I think it's a big hazard. I think somebody needs to do something about it. I'd also like to address the 2022 audit. I know it was submitted to the DCED in January. When the state can have it, when can your residents have it?
Ms. Scotty?
Yeah, the DCED report is not the audit. Information comes from the audit to the DCED. I spoke to the auditor today, and it is still under final review, and that's where it is. And that's for the official audit to be released. The DCED and the audit are 2 different things. Yes, the financial information for the DCED comes from the audit, but they are 2 different things.
Ask what? What? Can we? Oh, does DCED get a copy of our financial statements?
No,
No?
it's not required.
Okay. So, but when are we going to see, you keep saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. When is it
As
coming?
soon as we get it, we will. And as
Who you
soon
get
as-
it from?
We get it from our auditors.
So they're holding it up? Have you gotten the
It's under-
management letter yet?
It's under review.
Have you gotten the management letter yet?
Yes, we did get a management letter.
And if you signed it?
Allison and I signed the representation letter, yes.
So when did you sign it?
I think last week.
Just last week?
That's usually one of the final steps before we get the audit.
Okay, because it just makes it seem like there's something that you're trying to, not you, you are trying to hide from when it's not released.
When we get it, it will be published to the website as every audit is published.
I know, I look every week or so to see if it's on the website, I look. And I'm really serious about getting those additional police officers from the money for the firefighters that we don't have.
Thank you. Next is Judy Duggan.
Good evening, Judy Duggan. I'm going to talk about two different things. First of all, there's a problem in 69th Street area, 69th and 6800 Market Street, where there's actually sewage coming up out of the sewer grates. And it's been like that for quite a while. And we've mentioned it before at the meeting several months ago. And we were hoping somebody could take care of that because it smells kind of bad down there. And, you know, it's not really a safe thing. The second thing I wanted to talk about, I believe that probably the township gives permission to companies like Pico or Aqua for digging up the streets. And they have to ask for permission for that. And this wasn't under your administration, I'm sure, but Cedar Lane, South Cedar Lane, next to the Acme, has been being dug up for 6 months, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, a lot of months. And I'm trying to drive the kids to school. It took me more than 20 minutes to get from State and Park to State and Lansdowne this morning. So the kids were late for school. They have that road blocked every morning. If we could not approve them to do roads next that are ways for people to get to school during school year, and if they could do these things in the summer, if we could encourage them to do roads next to schools in the summer, it would be really helpful to people that need to drive kids to school. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Next is Olivia Taylor.
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent. I too didn't want to be here tonight, but I promised my brother, who was supposed to be here at the last meeting, and had I known my last conversation in the hallway would have been my last one with him, you know, I would have did what he asked me to do, which was you, Kilkenny, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Army. And he wanted me to expose you. I didn't think anything else could surprise me. But when he said you were a lieutenant and you sat here in your first 2 years in here and you let this little prick, Vince, fight him tooth and nail about that flag, an oath you took, an oath he took serious, unlike you. You sat here and didn't open your mouth and let Vince berate him, fight him tooth and nail about that flag, and knowing how much it means to these men and women who take that oath and give the ultimate sacrifice. You didn't open your mouth, but you're going to question Rich about his ability to speak in a council meeting? Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? You of all people know what that post is. So I don't even know what was the question for. Oh, maybe because he exposed you. Because not only that, here it is Black History Month. And then I found out the Underground Railroad ran through Jenkintown. Good old boy over here wanted to buy that property and put apartments on it. Not that he cared about it was a gateway to freedom for our people. He didn't care. Well, damn, tell us how you really feel. He didn't care, but I thank God for the people in Jenkintown who told you to pretty much kick rocks because they knew it was a historical site and they wanted to preserve it. See, you're not a bully after all. And those 8 officers you called in here last week, for what, Rich? You thought he was going to jump over here and do something? These 4? See, let me tell you something. I said this at the last meeting. It's power in numbers. We have the power over here, okay? Don't think for 1 minute this is not going to be brought up. Because, see, they get paid by taxpayers, not you, okay? And if the courts have to decide who's in this meeting, then they will. See that quick, y'all, took away their power. This is what happens when we come together. You understand? We are the regular residents that come in here. There's no need for 4 officers in here. And technically, community affair officer and radar should be the only ones in here, not standing around like we're gonna do something. This is going to stop. And if the courts have to step in, it will. They will. Trust me, they will. Because if you think I'm not bringing this up, think again. And let me touch on you, Mr. Brown, about your speech. You were divided. How about you just got in here? You got an ordinance you didn't pass. Maybe if you passed the ordinance, we maybe wouldn't be so much division. Again, how many people have came in here and said that? Then you said that we have to accept, the
Ms.
people
Taylor.
voted for us.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Your time is up.
How many came in here and disgraced you now?
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Your time is up. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is our Honorable Mayor Edward Brown.
Thank you. Good evening, President Tunis, Vice President Heyman, Council, Administration, and the public. Tonight's special meeting was called to ensure that our millage rate, trash fee, and sewer fee are passed correctly. If these 3 ordinances are passed tonight, then the property tax bills will be dated February 20th, 2024, which will make the discount period available through April 20th and face value due by June 20th. After June 20th, the normal 10% penalty for late property taxes will be in effect. The trash and sewer fees would also be due on June 20th. This year, you will also have the option for online payment for current year property tax, sewer, and trash. Instructions will be included in your bill. Next, Upper Darby Summer Stage registration is now open, and I'd like to remind residents that the township sponsors the full registration costs for our residents. Simply go to upperudfoundation.org, and you will be asked for residency information to waive your registration fee. There are programs for students who have completed 4th grade through high school. This Monday, February 19th, is a township holiday. Monday's trash and recycling will be collected on Wednesday, February 21st. Wednesday's recycling will be collected on Tuesday for Area 1 and that Friday for Area 2. The full calendar is available on the township website at upperdarby.org/trash calendar. I'd like to start by talking about the recent developments in the surrounding area, particularly the 2 police officers shot in the course of their duties. Officer David Shiaza, Lansdowne Borough Police Department, and Officer Rob Meehan, East Lansdowne Police Department, are both heroes, and I'm happy that they are now at home convalescing with their families. I am proud that Upper Darby police officers played a major role in the fact that these officers are now home safely with their families. I'm sure that I speak for everyone when I say that we truly appreciate all officers' service and dedication to their craft. I had the fortune and honor last week to accompany Superintendent Bernhardt in going down to Penn Presbyterian Hospital to greet both officers as they were discharged from the hospital and given a well-deserved Heroes Motorcade and escort home. It was great to see the genuine brotherhood and sisterhood that exists in the police ranks as officers came from near and far to greet their fellow heroes. I was proud to see it and be a part of it. We will be planning a proper acknowledgement for the heroes in our police department and thanking them for their excellent work and heroics in the very near future. Next, I want to thank you for your patience as we develop our business rhythm and fine-tune our operations and administration that allows people to play to their strengths. We've had a lot of meetings, so we appreciate you hanging in there with us. You all deserve the very best execution that we can deliver, and we are working hard to quickly get there. We will take a big step towards that regard in a couple of weeks when Mr. Crandall Jones starts as our CAO. He has been spending time with me in the township on Fridays the last couple of weeks to get the lay of the land and quickly get up to speed. Even after he joins the team, that doesn't mean that everyone will agree with every decision that we make, and that's okay. You are allowed to disagree. Nevertheless, we will communicate, be transparent, and accountable for everything that we do, and you are welcome to hold us accountable. A thorough review of the township's operations, as I've said before, including all departments, personnel, finances, processes, procedures, continue, and we will share this critical data with the incoming CAO and establish the immediate, short-term, and long-term priorities for the township. I talked last week in my mayor's message about working closely with this council to develop a rapport and earn their respect. I just want to share with the public my plan to put that into action. When I served as the Upper Darby School Board President, I created something called Friday Chats, and it was essentially office hours that I carved out for my fellow board members. This allowed me to stay in tune with my colleagues and answer any questions or concerns that they had, or just to talk for a few minutes. They understood that from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Fridays, I was available for them and nothing else was on my plate. I'd like to offer the same opportunity to council and offer every Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., and my availability for a quick time to chat. This won't be the only time that I will avail myself for council, and I will always do that as needed, but this time is set aside for them. I talk to President Tunis and Vice President Heyman as the leaders of the council often, but I want to ensure that the rest of council has the same opportunities to engage. I think that this is very important, so this begins on Friday, February 16th. I hope to speak to as many council members as possible. Next, I'd like to read the statement of condolence about Mr. Brian Sharif Taylor that I posted on my mayoral page, since he has many people that loved him and cared about him. I was saddened to learn last week of the passing of Brian Taylor, CEO of Taylor Made Vets. Every time we talked, it was a respectful conversation, and I appreciated his commitment to bettering the lives of veterans based on his distinguished service in the Army. It was very apparent that he believed in his mission and was very dedicated to helping others. I liked his demeanor and the fact that he always tried to deliver his message calmly and always focus on others rather than himself. I am certain that his legacy of service will live on through his many friends and family. May he rest in peace. That completes my mayor's message. Lastly, I would like to ask council to approve the appointment of Crandall Jones to the Fire Pension Board. Crandall was confirmed as the next Chief Administrative Officer by council. Historically, the CAO has served on the Fire Pension Board, and I want to ensure that this is filled before the next pension board meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 5-24. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. There's a motion made
I second.
by Vice President Heyman, seconded by Secretary Billups. Solicitor, can we please get a reading of Resolution 524?
A resolution of the Township of Upper Darby, Delaware County, appointing a member of the Firefighters Pension Board and providing an effective date. Whereas Section 403 of the Home Rule Charter of Upper Darby Township provides that the mayor appoints and removes, with the approval of council, all members of authority boards and commissions. Whereas the mayor desires to appoint one member of the Fire Pension Board to fill the vacant position, now therefore be it, and hereby resolved that Upper Darby Council hereby adopts and resolves the authority of the same. Mr. Crandall Jones is appointed to the Fire Pension Board for an indefinite term to serve at the pleasure of the mayor with the approval by council. There's a repealer clause, a severability clause, and the effective date is today, the 14th of February.
Thank you, Solicitor Kilkenny. A motion has been made and duly seconded. I will now open the floor for discussion. Is there any discussion from any council members? Councilor Brannis, Councilor Blackwell? Okay, seeing none, I will now close the discussion and ask for a vote on Resolution 524. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, Resolution 524 to appoint Mr. Crandall Jones to the Fire Pension Board has been approved unanimously. Next on the agenda is Council President. I just want to inform the public that council did have an executive session on Tuesday, February 13th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. to discuss personnel issues. Our next scheduled meeting is February 21st at 7 p.m. Thank you. That's all I have. The next item on the agenda is the Finance Committee. The chair is Vice President Heyman. Members include Councilor Minnick, Councilor Secretary Billups, and Councilor Andrusko. Vice President Heyman.
Thank you, President Tunis. The first up on the agenda, we've got a public hearing for ordinance number 3152. Can I get a reading of that?
Sure. An ordinance of the Township of Upper Darby, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, repealing ordinances 3149 and 3151, in their entirety and levying a tax on real property in Upper Darby Township for the general purposes and debt purposes for 2024.
Counselors, if you're on Zoom, if you could please mute your microphones, and it's encouraged if you please can have your camera on. Thank you.
Whereas pursuant to Section 902 of the Home Rule Charter of the Township of Upper Darby, the mayor submitted to Township Council a proposed budget and accompanying message for the fiscal year 2024. Whereas the budget provides a complete financial plan for township funds and activities for the ensuing fiscal year, and whereas pursuant to Section 906A of the Home Rule Charter, Council published a general assembly of the budget and notice stating the times and places where copies of the budget and budget message were available for inspection by the public. Whereas 2 public hearings were held on the budget in 2023, an additional public hearing was held in 2024. Whereas following public hearings and after due consideration, the budget was adopted by Council by Resolution 124. Whereas in furtherance of the funding of the 2024 budget, Council may and did establish a tax on all real property improved or unimproved within the township subject to taxation for the calendar year 2024 and each dollar assessed valuation by the passage of ordinance number 3149. And whereas due to a typographical error, the millage rate appeared higher in ordinance 3149 than the millage rate intended by council. Whereas on January 31st, 2024, council considered and adopted ordinance 3151, which established a tax rate of 14.02 mils, 13.56 mils for general fund purposes, and 0.46 mils for debt purposes on each $1,000 of assessed valuation of real property. Whereas on January 31st, 2024, at the public hearing, members of the public and councilors pointed out a typographical error on ordinance 3151 referencing cents on each $100 of valuation as opposed to mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation of real property. Whereas Section 1710 of the First Class Township Code requires that whenever a tax rate is fixed at a mill rate, that the ordinance include a statement expressing the rate of taxation in dollars and cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of taxable property. And whereas on January 31st, 2024, at the public hearing on ordinance 3151, an amendment to clarify the typographical error was made to the ordinance and adopted by council, and both the public and council had the opportunity to comment on the typographical error. Whereas council, in an abundance of caution and for clarity, would like to repeal ordinances 3149 and 3151 and enact an ordinance levying the appropriate tax on real property for general fund purposes and debt purposes for 2024. Now, therefore, be it ordained by council of the Township of Upper Darby as follows. This whole section is underscored. Section 1, Ordinance 3149 is repealed in its entirety as set forth on Appendix A, hereto and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, Ordinance 3151 is repealed in its entirety and is set forth on Appendix B, hereto and incorporated herein by reference. Section 3, the tax may be and the same is hereby levied on all property and occupations within the said township, subject to taxation for the township purposes for the fiscal year 2024 as follows. Tax rate for general fund purposes, the sum of 13.56 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, or the sum of 135.6 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of real property. For debt purposes, 0.46 mils on each dollar of assessed valuation, or the sum of 4.6 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of real property. Section 4, if any section, sentence, clause, or word of this ordinance shall be declared illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such declaration shall not prevent, preclude, or otherwise foreclose the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5, all ordinances or parts thereof inconsistent herewith or in conflict with any of the specific terms hereby enacted, to the extent of such inconsistencies or conflicts, are hereby repealed. Enacted or ordained this day in council chambers, February 14th. I'm also going to read Appendix A and B, which have type-out strike in them, which are ordinances 3149 and 3151. Appendix A, repeal of Ordinance 3159. Section 1, again, this is strikeout type, that a tax be and the same is levied on all property and occupations within the said subject within the said township, subject to taxation for township purposes for the fiscal year 2024 as follows. Tax rate for general purposes, the sum of 13.75 mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. For debt purposes, 0.46 mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. The same summarized in tabular form as follows. Mills on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. Tax rate for general purposes, 13.75. Tax rate for debt purposes, 0.46. Total tax rate, 14.21. Section 2, providing for the fees for collection and disposal of refuse set forth in Section 46118 of the Code of Ordinances. The owner of record of any residence building shall be charged a sum of $315 for each dwelling unit contained in said residence building for the collection of refuse from the residence building. Section 3, increasing the sewer rates and charges set forth in Section 4541A of the Code of Ordinances for the said rental or charge based upon the following rates in accordance with the following classifications. 1, single-family dwelling unit, $275. Apartment unit, $275. 3, apartment house for each apartment unit, $275. And 4, public business, commercial, or industrial users for the first 60,000 gallons of water annually, $275. Amending Section 4541B, public business, commercial, or industrial users shall pay at the rate of $275 per unit. Section 4, if any section, sentence, clause, or word of this ordinance shall be declared illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such declaration shall not prevent, preclude, or otherwise foreclose the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5, all ordinances or resolutions or parts thereof of inconsistent herewith or in conflict with any of the specific terms enacted hereby, to the extent of said inconsistencies and conflicts, or hereby specially repealed. Appendix B, repeal of Ordinance 3151. Again, this is in strikeout type as well. Section 1, that a tax be and the same is hereby levied on all property and occupations within the said township, subject to taxation for township purposes for the fiscal year 2024 as follows. Tax rate for general purpose for general fund purposes, the sum of 13.56 mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation, or the sum of 0.01356 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of real property. For debt purposes, 0.46 mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation, or the sum of 0.00046 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of real property. The same being summarized in tabular form as follows. First column, mills on $1,000 of assessed valuation, tax rate for general purposes, 13.75, and then underscored 13.56. Tax rate for debt purposes, 0.46. Total tax rate, 14.21, and then underscored 14.02. Moving over to the next column, cents on $100 of assessed, 0.1356 cents, tax rate, which is tax rate for general fund purposes. Tax rate for debt purposes, 0.00046 cents. Total tax rate, 0.01402 cents. Section 2, providing for the fees for collection and disposal of refuse set forth in Section 46118 of the Code of Ordinances. The owner of record of any residence building shall be charged a sum of $315 for each dwelling unit contained in said residence building for the collection of refuse from the residence building. Section 3, increasing the sewer rates and charges set forth in Section 4541A of the Code of Ordinances for the said rental or charge based upon the following rates in accordance with the following classifications. 1, single-family dwelling unit, $275. 2, apartment unit, $275. 3, apartment house for each apartment unit, $275. And 4, public business, commercial, or industrial unit users for the first 60,000 gallons of water annually, $275. Amending Section 4541B, public business, commercial, or industrial users shall pay the rate of $275 per unit. Section 5, underscore 4, If any section, sentence, clause, or word of this ordinance shall be declared illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such declaration shall not prevent, preclude, or otherwise foreclose the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 6_5. All ordinances or resolutions or parts thereof inconsistent herewith or in conflict with any of the specific terms enacted hereto, to the extent of such inconsistencies or conflicts, are hereby specially repealed.
Thank you, Solicitor Kilkenny. Just before we start, I got a lot of questions from counselors about this. I was wondering if you could state your guidance on the motions to combine the public hearings, just so everyone kind of understands.
So when speaking to the counselors, obviously in an abundance of caution relating to Ordinance 3152, I recommended we have our own separate public hearing on this as required by the charter. The charter does not say if you can combine public hearings or not, but based on the importance of Ordinance 3152, I didn't want any kind of question whatsoever that there was a public hearing specifically on Ordinances 3152. As to Ordinances 3153 and 3154, they both involve fees. Basically the same subject matter. The charter is silent if you can combine public hearings or not. So after speaking to Councilor Heyman, if council so chooses, perhaps you could choose to combine the public hearings on those last two ordinances.
I'd be willing to make a motion right now to combine the public hearings on ordinance 3153 and 3154.
Okay, there's a motion. There's a motion on the floor to combine the public hearings for 3153 and 3154. Motion made by Vice President Heyman, seconded by Secretary Phillips. I'm sorry, Councilor Wagner. Can we just have a roll call vote on this, just so we're clear for the record?
So this is to combine the public hearing for ordinance 3153 and 3154, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Heyman.
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a yes. Councilor Minnick.
Yes.
Councilor Wagner.
Yes.
President Tunis.
Yes.
Councilor Banto.
Yes.
Councilor Brandis.
Yes.
Councilor Andrusco.
Yes.
Councilor Wentz.
Yes.
Councilor Silva.
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell. She's the last one. She's the last one. Councilor Blackwell.
Okay, so it passes 10-0. If she wants to restate her vote for the record, we can come
Yeah.
back to it.
Okay.
Now we'll pass it on to Vice President Heyman for the public hearing on ordinance number 3152.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open a public hearing on ordinance 3152.
Okay, Joanne Namavong. I just have,
Ms.
just really,
Namala, can I just state for the record, because I think
Sorry.
there was some miscommunication for the members at home. This is a public hearing for ordinance 3152. If you would like to state anything, please come up to the microphone and state your name. So I just wanted to put it on the record.
okay, sorry. Joanne Namavong. I just have a question. Did you guys mean, like, was it your intent to take the tabular form out of the ordinance that you had in there in the 3149, 3151? To not put it in tabular form?
We repealed those ordinances and wrote specifically as what is written in the first-class township code.
Okay, and that doesn't, I don't care.
Yes.
I'm just, that was your intent, okay.
Yes.
And just first-class township code, I touched on this last week, and you know, I know it's the same thing, but it says to put it as dollar and cents per $100, not cents. It looks silly to write 135 cents. That's me. I'm an accountant. We like things precise. It just looks silly, in my opinion. Thank you.
Is there any further comments from the public on ordinance number 3152? I will now close the public hearing. Is there any Discussion from members of council? Okay. If there's no further discussion for councilors of if there's no further comments from members of council, I would ask Secretary Billups to do a roll call vote.
Was there a motion and second on ordinance 3152?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
want to make sure.
yes, I apologize. The motion was made in the beginning by Vice President Hayman, seconded by Secretary Billups.
So this is a council vote to approve ordinance 3152.
You know, I don't think, there may be a mistake. Let's just
No,
for
that was, no,
clarity,
we didn't do that. No, we did
just for
not.
Okay, let's
No,
just
we
state it
did
on the
not.
record.
the record, let's just clarify.
No, we
just
did,
to be
we
clear
did
that
3154 and
clarify.
31.
I'm making a
50.
motion to approve ordinance 3152.
Sec,
Okay.
okay, now.
All right, it's on the
Okay.
record. Motion made by Vice President Hayman, seconded by Councilor Manick.
Yes.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Has to be, yeah.
Okay. Councilor Hayman,
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a yes. Councilor Minnick,
Yes.
Councilor Wagner,
No.
President Tunis,
Yes.
Councilor Banto,
Yes.
Councilor Brannis,
Yes.
Councilor Andrusco,
No.
Councilor Wentz,
No.
Councilor Silva,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell, okay. She's
Okay.
there. Maybe,
All right.
maybe she can't, maybe her thing is muted, I don't know.
Oh, just counter is not voting.
All right, so
right.
it passed, can you
Okay.
please let me know?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 yes and 3 no's, because Councilor Blackwell, I'm gonna say that she, I don't know. Excuse,
7 yeas and 3 noes.
and an excuse.
And 7 yeas and 3 noes.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice President Hayman.
Thank you, President Tunis. Now I'd like to open up a public hearing for ordinances number 3153 and 3154. The public comment.
If it's okay, Vice President Hayman, I'm going to read both ordinances 3153 and 3154 at this time.
Sure.
Ordinance 3153, an ordinance of the Township of Upper Darby, County of Delaware, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending sections 46118 of the Upper Darby Township Code, solid waste refuse collection fee. Now therefore be it ordained, Upper Darby Ordinance 3153, amending Upper Darby Code 461-18 shall be adopted as follows. All underscored, this section. Section 1, providing for the fees for collection and disposal of refuse set forth in Section 46118 of the Code of Ordinances. The owner of record of any residence building shall be charged a sum of $315 for each dwelling unit contained in said residence building for the collection of refuse for the residence building. Section 2, all ordinances or parts thereof inconsistent herewith or in conflict with any of the specific terms enacted hereby, to the extent of such inconsistencies and conflicts, are hereby specially repealed. Section 3, if any section, sentence, clause, or any word of this ordinance shall be declared illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such declaration shall not prevent, preclude, or otherwise foreclose the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Enacted and ordained this 14th day of February 2024. Now I'm going to read ordinance 3154. An ordinance of the Township of Upper Darby, County of Delaware, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending ordinance sections 4541 of the Upper Darby Township Code, sewers and sewage disposal rates. Now therefore be it ordained, Upper Darby Ordinance 3154, amending Upper Darby Code Section 4541, sewage and sewage disposal shall be adopted as follows. Section 1, increasing the sewer rates and charges set forth in Section 4541A of the Code of Ordinances for said rental or charge based upon the following rates and in accordance with the following classifications. 1, single-family dwelling unit, $275. 2, apartment unit, $275. 3, apartment house for each apartment unit, $275. 4, public business, commercial or industrial users for the first 60,000 gallons of water annually, $275. Amending 4541B, public business, commercial or industrial users shall pay at the rate of $275 per unit. Section 2, all ordinances or parts thereof inconsistent herewith or in conflict with any of the specific terms enacted hereby to the extent of said inconsistencies or conflicts are hereby specially repealed. Section 3, if any section, sentence, clause, or word of this ordinance shall be declared illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such declaration shall not prevent, preclude, or otherwise foreclose the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. This whole section was underscored. Of 3154, enacted and ordained this 14th day of February 2024.
Vice President Hayman.
Thank you, Solicitor Kilkenny. Now I'd like to open that up to public comment.
So Becky Duggan, so in light of the fact that last year there was a surplus in the sanitation budget that was reallocated, I'd like to urge you not to pass this ordinance to increase our fees, because it would only seem that it was to get more money so you could reallocate it later in the year. I'd also like to urge anybody who is in arrears of their trash and sewer fees to not vote in favor of this, because if you won't pay it, why should I have to?
Is there any further comment from members of the public?
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent. There are 3 members of council up here with fees close to $13,000, $14,000, but they can vote yes to raise ours, but hasn't paid theirs. Help me to understand this here. But you'll come after the resident that don't pay theirs, but they get to sit up here and do what? Help me make this make sense. You'll come and put a note on somebody's door about their fines and fees being late. But you got 3 of them up here that owe more than most residents. Nobody got nothing to say. You will come threaten the resident when you got 3 of your own sitting up here who owe more than most residents. No, I know they're not going to answer because they're disgusting.
Actually, President Tunis, can I reply to that, please?
Sure you can.
I would love to.
Councilor
And Olivia, I do agree with you. And like I said in the very first council meeting, that when I was made aware of the situation, that I made arrangements, and my arrangements actually start tomorrow. So that's done. But my 2024 were paid. Everything else has been paid. And my bill certainly was not in the tens of thousands of dollars. It was only about 1,400, I think, and I am taking care of that because it is my responsibility. So I want to make sure that I do right by you and by the citizens, and just being a natural human being who lives here in the township and owes my dues.
I appreciate you responding, but you're not the only one, and I thank you for that.
I
You should
understand
have
that. I
courage.
just wanted to let you know
should
that
have
I
enough
am
courage to take ownership. I
Right.
appreciate
No, I
that.
understand.
But the other 2, you see them sitting here ain't saying a word because they're embarrassed because they're being called out. But yet they'll sit here. This is the point that I'm making. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
If there's no further comment from the public, I will now close the public hearing. Is there any comments from members of council?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 3153.
Second.
All right, motion made by Vice President Hayman, seconded by Councilor Minnick. If there's no further discussion, we can go to, I'm sorry, Councilor Silva.
What is the increase from the prior year for the trash and sewer fee?
Ms. Scuddy or Acting CAO Dobbins?
15.
Is that just on the trash and that's for the tipping fee for, okay. And then the sewer is the same from last year?
No, it went up by 15.
What's that?
It went up by 15.
That went up by 15 as well? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion from members of council, I'll ask Secretary Billups for a roll call vote.
53.
Sorry, this is a roll call vote for 3153.
Yes.
Yeah. Counselor Hayman.
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a yes. Counselor Minnick.
Yes.
Counselor Wagner.
No.
President Tunis.
Yes.
Counselor Banto.
Yes.
Counselor Brannis.
Yes.
Counselor Andrewsko.
Yes.
Counselor Wentz.
No.
Counselor Silva.
I'm sorry, can I get a clarification? Is this for ordinance number 3153? Just 3153?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, yes.
Counselor Blackwell. Okay, I'm looking her excuse. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yes, 2 no, and 1 excuse.
Okay, so ordinance 3153 passes.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 3154.
Second.
Motion made by Vice President Hayman, seconded by Counselor Minnick. There's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion from members of council? There are no further discussion. I will ask Secretary Billups for a roll call vote on ordinance 3154.
Yep. Counselor Hayman.
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a yes. Counselor Minnick.
Yes.
Counselor Wagner.
No.
President Tunis.
Yes.
Counselor Banto.
Yes.
Counselor Brannis.
Yes.
Counselor Andrewsko.
Yes.
Counselor Wentz.
No.
Counselor Silva.
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell. Okay, she's excused.
Why is she here?
I don't think she heard me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yes, 2 no's, and 1 excuse.
Okay, so ordinance 3154 passes with 8
Motion to adjourn.
yeses. Prior to the motion to adjourn, I just want to thank council members for helping me tonight with the mistake that I made earlier with the motion. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I do apologize. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor Brown, need your signature.
Please take the folders and the items in the folder. Please take the items in the folders.